In the first two episodes, I showed Tiffany Gomez's story. Her flight took place on July 2nd, 2023, which is 777, and she exited out of the sun portal. She disappeared for almost a month before resurfacing as a more demure version of herself. The day her story was resurrected was August 7th, the same day the Maui fires broke out. The Maui fires are no ordinary fires. This is the manifestation of Oppenheimer. This video is made possible by the generous support of TrueLove members. To become a member, go to truelove.com/membership to access additional content. The fire first broke out in a bird sanctuary in the heart of Maui known as Kula. Kula is literally in the heart of the island, which is shaped like the head and torso of a man. The event started in a bird sanctuary which represents the divine feminine or heart in the chest. She is the bird in the cage. The heart is the gold in the treasure chest. Kula means gold or source.
We've got 10 sensors in that community that show a very sharp drop in electrical voltage at precisely that same time.
Marshall says this bright light is called an arc flash.
This is an excerpt from the book God-Man, The Word Made Flesh by George Carey and Inez Perry. At the place where the ark entered the water, 12 men were chosen to set up stones, and the Bible tells us that they were there to this day. These 12 stones correspond to the 12 dorsal vertebrae, to each vertebra of which a nerve is attached that forms part of the solar plexus. This is the electric spark that crucifies the seed in the solar plexus. This is why the fire started in the heart. The process of joining the heart with mind has begun, so the next day the fire spread to Lahaina.
5 a.m. local time on August 8th. Hawaiian Electric reports one of the first power outages in Lahaina. They say it's impacting at least 1,000 customers. 6:37 a.m. Authorities say the first brush fire in Lahaina is reported.
August 8th is the 88 Lions Gate, so it is by no coincidence that the fire spread to the head of Maui, Lahaina, or the pineal gland on this day. The Lion's Gate represents the Kundalini energy connecting with the pineal and pituitary in the head. 8 represents Mercury, the mind, the divine messenger. The name Maui means fire god, Mercury, or Prometheus. Oppenheimer himself, the inventor of the atomic bomb, was nicknamed Prometheus. Prometheus was the god who stole fire from the gods to give to man. The fire is the inner fire or the divine spark. He is the savior of mankind. Maui is a Hawaiian demigod and was fabled to have caught the sun, and Lahaina means merciless sun.
It's 6:40 a.m. on Lahaina Luna Road. Resident Shane True is live on Facebook.
Oh, this is live right across the street from my house. Freaking power line just went down.
The story of the Maui fires has primarily centered around Lahaina. Most prevalent in the news have been the issues surrounding the escape from the fire. The reasons given for the cause of the fire at first was brush fire from drought, then a downed power line. The power lines symbolize the electrical current that runs through the human body that charges the seed in the solar plexus.
At around 9 a.m., the Maui Fire Department declares the Lahaina brush fire 100% contained. They add that power outages are impacting water pumps and ask residents to conserve water. 9:30 a.m. The wind is strong and picking up.
Head northeast on Dickinson Street toward Mill Street.
On the day, there were allegedly strong winds from a hurricane 500 miles off the coast of Maui called Dora. Dora is short for Dorothy, which means God's door or God's gift. The door is Delta, the brainwave of meditation that allows one to enter into the kingdom of heaven.
At this time, Hawaiian Electric says several power lines are still down across West Maui. Thousands are without power.
One of the major issues was that the downed power lines were causing police to block the roads so people couldn't get in or out. There was only one main road accessing Lahaina, just as there's one main road in the body, which is the spine. Police represents the duality, the red versus blue, and they close the roads. In many of my decodes, I have shown this as a coded message, which means that the path is not open to you, the road is closed. If you have not done the work, you cannot rise into Christ consciousness.
That's where I was going. That's coming. Let's go. What if it jumps the freeway here?
4:20 p.m. Jill Perkins and her husband are now in their car. They watch as flames engulf their home. 4:45 p.m. They're stuck on Hawaii Route 30 with dozens of others trying to head out.
These winds were what caused the fire to spread so rapidly, it was said. Most of the town was consumed by fire within a few short hours. There was said to have been people trapped in their cars on Front Street.
5:02 p.m. Denny Euchert and many others are at a standstill on Front Street as they try to get out of town. The fire is closing in.
If I make it, it will be a good thing.
Front means forehead or project, which is the horn or third eye projecting your reality forward. It is also linked to upper. And Tiffany Gomez's story had several instances of upper, as in Uber or uppercut. One possible interpretation of this is that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So when you change your consciousness, the world outside, or what is projected from the mind, also changes. Psalm 66 says, "For you, O God, have tested us, you have tried us as silver is tried. You brought us into the net, you laid a crushing burden on our backs. You let men ride over our heads, we went through the fire and through the water. Yet you have brought us out to a place of abundance."
It's like Lahaina is on fire.
Just 2 blocks away, Marjorie St. Clair is driving away from her home, trying to find a way out of Lahaina. She manages to escape by avoiding Front Street. By 5:33 p.m., others like Noah Tompkinson, who say they've been waiting hours in traffic, escape the flames by jumping into the ocean.
Noah means rest. Tompkinson is son of Thomas or twin. The whole event started with an arc flash, and Noah ended up in the water where he was rescued. So these people, they ran into the water, and water is symbolic of truth or consciousness or emotion. These were the people who were trapped and scared of the fire within. They would either be consumed by the fire or the water. If they drowned, then they were likely overwhelmed by the truth of what they saw, much like Tom freaking out on the plane. If they survived, then they rose in consciousness. The Maui fires are intended to wake people up to the truth. Some will become consumed by fear, not finding their way out. The road will be closed.
Both sides, to the left and the right, are on fire.
Noah, which means rest, is in the middle of the fire, which is on both sides. He is in the water, safe or calm or restful, because if you meditate and take the middle path, you find rest in the ark within during the chaos, and you are safe.
Around 5:45 p.m., the Coast Guard says it begins receiving reports of people in the water needing rescue. They later say they rescued 17 survivors, including 2 children, from the water. 5:59 p.m. Denny, only a block away from Bosco, has now left his car. He's taken 5 steps across the road and down onto the rocks of the harbor. Dozens are sheltering from the blazing embers. Denny later tells ABC News he waited about 5 hours before being rescued, 3 of which were in the water. Officials say many died in their cars, unable to get out, trapped by the flames.
It seems highly unlikely that people were burned alive in their cars. Maybe if they were overcome by smoke first, but I doubt very much anyone would sit in their cars while flames engulfed their vehicles. This statement only serves to fan the flames of the conspiracy theory that the fires were caused by DEWs. Why would the mainstream media want the masses to believe in DEWs? Since this event is linked to Oppenheimer, the man who invented the atomic bomb, perhaps this is the modern-day atomic bomb. If you're not aware of the absurdity of the existence of atomic bombs, let me tell you, they do not exist. Considering the narrative is that people were blocked from leaving and they had no warning to escape, and the fire was so intense that people either had to run into the water or they were burned alive in their cars, why are there not countless burn victims? The only person I could find is this man who displayed a minor burn on his leg while donning an orange t-shirt to show you that he's part of the show. This couple, interviewed by ABC News, tells of their harrowing escape from their home on Front Street. He's a pastor of King's Church. King refers to the Kundalini awakening when you are Christed in the head. You are anointed with Christos oil and you become king. The rest of the message on his t-shirt says all together one, which is similar to the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, out of many one. Together, as I've already stated, means to get her, the divine feminine, and the one is the unity from duality, two into one.
And the fire had already crossed over past our house onto Front Street, and then you just seen buildings on fire on Front Street, cars just being engulfed in smoke.
For having gone through a near-death experience, these two are rather calm, although they do occasionally appear to be choked up. I do find it odd how vague his story is for someone who lived on Front Street.
And I almost took the wrong turn, but my wife told me to go left, so I ended up going left, and everybody that was going in towards Lahaina instead of leaving Lahaina ended up getting stuck there. Buildings started falling apart, and we just headed out. And
the pastor doesn't name any specific building, and the only reference he makes to his own story is, "I nearly went the wrong way. My wife told me to go left." Not everyone's a great storyteller, but most people, when talking about their own personal experience, at least talk specifically about themselves. He quickly diverts the focus onto other people standing around not wanting to leave, and other cars engulfed in smoke.
I mean, it's just behind of us as we're looking ahead towards Wailuku side. I mean, it's just clear skies, and behind us, the sky is just dark black, like everything was just going up in flames. And, and just a lot of people who should have been evacuating were just walking around, and we're like looking like, you should be leaving. And,
I just kind of felt like people were kind of giving up. They just weren't, trying to get out. It was such a weird feeling. It was an eerie feeling.
Just consider how you would tell the story of running from a city on fire and compare it to these examples. It doesn't add up. Listen to this couple talk about losing family members.
Lost my uncle, Tony, and his wife, and his daughter.
He says he lost his uncle, and yet his own wife has to remind him of his uncle's name, Tony, and that they lost his wife and also his daughter. If I had just lost my uncle and his family in a fire, I'd be devastated, and I don't think I'd explain it in this way. Soon after, several other YouTubers and TikTokers popped up with their first-hand accounts of what happened in the fire. If the narrative is that the government turned off the internet because they didn't want the truth getting out, then they didn't plan very well, because all of these stories from people on the ground are still coming out. The government controls everything. So if they didn't want something to get out, it wouldn't get out. The footage coming from alleged people on the ground in Lahaina that day suspiciously looks staged. Most of them are simply driving around as if on a holiday tour, laughing and joking about what's going on. They aren't terrified as flames dance around their cars. They aren't devastated by the loss of their homes or worried about friends and family members. This woman, like most other witnesses, films while driving through the fire. She has barely any reaction to it.
Look at that. It's like it's... Oh my God. Oh my God. There's somebody out walking down the street. This is unreal. Unreal. Oh my goodness, look at that vehicle.
And it seems as though she's driving to a particular destination, but it ends up being a dead parking lot where there's a lone car on fire. And just as she comments on it, the media cuts the clip. They want you to see it but not see it. Why is this woman just driving slowly through the fire as if she's a tourist having a look around a museum? One man's 40-minute viral video shows his journey through the fire that day, starting at 10:08 a.m. 108 is the number for creation.
Jonathan Herzog's day didn't just end with roadblocks, but it began with them during his AM commute from Kihei.
And then as I got into Lahaina, they were redirecting us all around through these back streets, and branches were coming down.
On his way to Kaanapali, Herzog started filming as he entered town, sensing unusual conditions.
The winds were the worst winds I've ever been in my life.
When he was later heading home through Lahaina town just before 3 p.m., he hit this roadblock on the southbound highway at Kapunakea before the Cannery Mall. Herzog backtracked to where Front Street meets the highway. Traffic moved well enough at that time to rejoin the highway near Lahaina Luna here at 3:02 p.m. But then, Herzog says, traffic snarled with downed trees and crews working to the south.
Then I ended up turning around and trying to go north again, thinking, well, at least I'll get out of Lahaina.
But to the north, the gridlock was worse, he says.
Where is this gridlock the reporter mentioned?
So he detoured over on Baker and then south again on Waine'e. At 3:19, his camera shows a police vehicle blocking access to the highway at Papalaua.
I guess he means this cop car here. If the narrative told by conspiracy theorists is that the police blocked the entrances and exits, then why is the mainstream telling the same story? I don't know why the video resolution is so poor, so I pulled the original footage from Jonathan Herzog's YouTube channel to compare. It also shows that the reason he spotted the cop car is because he came to a stop at the intersection where the power was out.
But nothing had eased up.
Nothing had eased up?
Oh, but it's total gridlock!
So without GPS, he heads north to look for an open route. His first view of the fire at 3:24 p.m. on the hillside. And just before 4 p.m., he ends up in this line of cars on Front Street.
This guy's been driving around Lahaina for an hour now, and he first spotted the fires at 3:24 only to end up on Front Street. It's as if he was driving around Lahaina on road tour. Seriously, how does anyone spend an hour driving around Lahaina? It's tiny. Jonathan driving all over Lahaina is symbolic of him going through the maze of consciousness to find the kingdom. He's blocked at the exits by the police because there's no way out externally, the battle of fire and ice, or the polarities, because the duality police are here to keep you in, but you must find a way out within.
In gridlock.
My goal is to get into the Kingdom Hall parking lot.
He said the goal is to get into the kingdom, just like your goal in Ascension is to get into the kingdom of heaven.
Just sat there, I think it was a good 25 minutes, something like that.
25 is 2 5s, which is Omega, the head. Code for this is allegory for what happens in your head.
Holy cow, dude. So now the smoke is virtually blocking out the light.
The smoke is blocking the light. This means the smoke within is preventing you from seeing the light, the truth. This could even be a link to smokescreen, meaning that if you take this story literally, the smoke is preventing you from seeing the light, the truth.
I am going to make my way down to the water.
Jonathan is in the Kingdom Hall parking lot, and he says, I'm going to make my way down to the water. Go to the water from the kingdom. In order to enter the kingdom, you must be born of water and fire, which is spirit. This is truth and love. John 3:5 says, Jesus answered, Verily I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I said unto thee, ye must be born again. He reached the kingdom, so going to the water could also signify creation, as the start of his video was at 10:08 or 1:08. This is also the angle of the flux capacitor, the triangle that helps you exit. In Genesis, God moved over the surface of the waters. When you are reborn, you create the world anew.
At 4:26, Herzog abandoned his car at Kingdom Hall and walked to Mala Wharf.
Mala Wharf, Mala is connected with Mary Magdalene, so he's on his way to connect with the divine feminine. It's also garland or wreath, which is halo, the result of being crowned or kinged.
It was obvious the fire was out of control, so that's when I decided to leave the vehicle completely.
Passing vehicle after vehicle, he noticed of those on the bridge.
All of those cars were still sitting there, just same exact spots.
KITV4 reported on the other side of the Cannery Mall that Herzog passed by in the 4 p.m. hour. The highway was completely shut down for 2.5 hours at Keawe Street until at least 5:24 p.m. Traffic routed towards Front Street. At 5:30, Herzog comes to the end of Front Street, and to his surprise,
it looks like 2 police vehicles parked kind of nose to that exit for Front Street.
These vehicles were stopped by police at the triangle Delta, and behind them is a triangular-shaped house. Delta is the key to exit, the flux capacitor, the Trinity. It takes 3 to open the vault, the Ida, Pingala, and Kundalini, or the male, female, and love, the triangle.
Kind of at a V like this. The traffic had basically bottlenecked right there. So there were cars in both lanes trying to go north by this point.
Cars in both lanes going north. This is the 2 tracks that are left behind as shown in Back to the Future and Don't Worry Darling, which you can see in my video, Get Into My Car.
But everyone was stopped on Front Street right there.
As the maintenance worker walked past the gridlock, heading north on foot, at 5:33 p.m. motorists had been fleeing into the water, as seen in Noah Tompkinson's video. 1 mile to the south of the Front Street roadblock, police were directing the public away from dangerous power lines. Hawaiian Electric says those power lines were de-energized.
So why is it that the mainstream news is telling us that the police blocked the roads, keeping people penned in, forcing them into the water? Why are they telling us that the reason was downed power lines and that the power company had announced that these power lines were de-energized earlier that day? I thought this was the job of controlled opposition. So why are they telling the same story? The controlled opposition said that the government wanted to control what was coming out of Maui, and yet there's a man's million-view viral video testimony on the mainstream news. So is this video legit or is it fake? Here's an example of where the 2 stories differ on access into Lahaina after the fires. The controlled opposition would have you believe that there is no access to Lahaina. You can't get in at all. But this news story says otherwise. This story came out on August 11th, just 3 days after the fires.
Officials are letting residents back in. Search and rescue efforts continue, and West Maui remains without power. And a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily is in effect for Lahaina town and affected areas to keep residents safe. Maui officials warning residents to stay out of restricted areas. Otherwise, entry into Lahaina will be closed again.
Utter devastation. Front Street, once ranked one of the greatest streets by the American Planning Association, is decimated.
We're blessed. I'm sorry for everybody lost their home. My dad lost all 3 of our houses. I lost probably about 200 of my roosters.
So this man didn't lose his home, but he says he lost 200 roosters while he's wearing a t-shirt that says cock on it. A rooster is a cock, so I'm guessing his t-shirt has to do with his business, which is cockfighting. It is a code or a joke on the viewer.
At my dad's house. But we can rebuild.
Search and rescue missions are still ongoing. The county barricaded certain areas deemed too dangerous for the public. Governor Josh Green calling this Hawaii's largest natural disaster in state history. Today is the first day Lahaina residents can officially survey what's left of their homes. The fires completely melted power and water lines. There is no power, water, or cell service on this side of the Valley Isle.
While most other people in Maui were without internet, Eric West, known as Hawaii Real Estate on YouTube, managed to secure a Starlink so he could start uploading videos about what was happening on the ground in Maui. This was one of his earliest videos, dated August 19th, but I do recall him posting an earlier video showing him at a long line of cars waiting for gas where he had access to a Starlink, which he said he helped secure. I now can't find this video. He quickly became the go-to guy for all information that the mainstream media allegedly doesn't want you to hear. He claimed to be a regular resident just trying to help those affected by the fire. But in reality, he's controlled opposition.
I believe it's because of some downed power lines that happened over here is my understanding, and then obviously the high winds from a hurricane that passed 500 miles to our south created a wildfire here that unfortunately took off into this residential area known as Lahaina Luna.
Another issue on that day was that the internet was down. There was no communication to the outside world. Conspiracy minds claim that it is because the government didn't want people who were trapped inside to get out. They didn't want the news of the truth of what was going on to get out. They didn't want people to share their personal experiences of escaping from Maui. These are all just stories cooked up by controlled opposition to get people talking about Maui and to make the masses suspicious of what's really going on in Maui. All these stories of corruption over the fire have that same intention. Why? Because it is intended to wake up the last of those who are to awaken.
No internet, no phone, no power, really no nothing. Roads are closed, we can't go anywhere, so.
It was said that the lack of power was what caused the phones and internet to go down. So no communication from lack of electricity. If there's no electricity, the Kundalini connection cannot be made, as we saw with the man and the woman on the plane. Both Tiffany and Tom were on the path, but the connection wasn't made, so they reincarnated. No power, no Christ within, no oil in the lamp, no connection is made, no communication. By contrast, this story on Hawaii Real Estate YouTube channel says they aren't allowed back into Lahaina still, and this video was uploaded on September 2nd. Eric West has been interviewing victims of the fire, most of whom have sketchy stories. They lack emotion for having lost everything and have no evidence to back up their stories. These are just stories. He raises money to support these supposed victims, claiming that local charities like the Red Cross are scams. Once again, he says this without offering any evidence.
We ordered those tools and equipment so that we could help those people out.
These people, like the man who lost his cockerels, are more upset than the couple who lost his uncle, aunt, and cousin in the fire. Does this make any sense to you?
We've been working really hard to try to get in there, but they won't let us in there. They won't let us help. They just keep the barricades up. And people are calling us desperate. And finally we got in a couple of days ago and we're able to help some folks out. They're grabbing safes out of these properties and they're trucking them out.
First he says they won't let us in there, near tears, both of them. Then he adds, finally they let us in there 2 days ago. They're trucking out the safes. Who is they, and how would one know who owns these safes if they're simply being trucked out?
So
we've opened a few safes for people, but
most devastating. It burns so hot and so fast. There's nothing left in their safes, and it's horrible to look at these people's faces.
Some people are claiming they found bodies in cars despite official reports stating that the bodies were incinerated, so they can't identify any bodies, and these people said the fire burned so hot that everything inside a safe burned to ash. More inconsistencies. The safe is the vault or fornix, and they're saying there was no gold inside. There's no gold in the vault because there's no fuel in the lamp. The connection was not made. The people didn't get to the kingdom of heaven. This is similar to 9/11 when Building 5 was found to have no gold inside.
As they peer into that safe and they find that their lives are completely gone, that they thought would be safe.
These people own a lock and key company. Some time ago, I noticed that lock and key was a synchronicity that kept showing up in various events or tragedies, especially at the Davenport apartment collapse. Lock and key refers to the key that opens the door, the triangle or delta, the Trinity. See my triangle videos for more. She wears chains and he wears a brand new t-shirt with Odin on it, and Odin is the same god as Prometheus. Lock and key, Loki. The trickster god, Mercury, Prometheus. Odin was the one-eyed god. Odin is Woden, is Wednesday, Mercredi, or Mercury.
There's a few cars that didn't burn, but the people lost the keys in the interim, and they won't let us in to make the keys for the cars to help so that the people can have a vehicle at least, you know.
They emphasized that they were not allowed back in to help. This doesn't match up with what the mainstream is saying that they were allowed in. It also doesn't match with available footage of people who were in Lahaina filming.
Our company's been here since 1982 and we've owned it for 21 years.
They make a point of mentioning 1982 and 21 years. This company has been there since 1982, the 2 8s for the 88 Lionsgate, and 21 for 3 7s, heaven.
And in a flash, everything is gone.
Notice how she emphasizes the word flash. In a flash, everything is gone, and it ties in with the flash that started the fires on the 7th. She just said 21 years, 777. The flash refers to the Kundalini connection.
Be careful, something will hit, right?
Oh my God.
Oh no, we cannot get out. We cannot get out.
Look, that tree's on fire. Right there. Okay, this is our neighborhood.
If no one was allowed into Lahaina until August 31st, according to the Lock and Key couple, then how was this man able to get in 2 days after the fire?
Fuck, that was my house right there. I can't believe it. Dude, it's apocalyptic shit, man. We're alive though, yeah? Okay, this is where I used to live. Okay, see you later. Probably never see this again, you know? They're gonna, next time you come here, it'll be... Oh, yeah.
We cannot find anything, but we
Why is there a man lounging in a blue chair next to a pylon on Front Street the day after the fires? The smoke is literally still hanging in the air. How is this cameraman able to go into Lahaina to film this the day after? DEW's directed energy weapons are being promoted everywhere by everyone, including Eric West. Eric is wearing an X or CC on his hat to indicate that he's part of the show. X represents Christ, as does CC for Christ consciousness. X is that. I am that I am. It is IMAX. I am X. And Oppenheimer was screened in IMAX theaters. The IMAX theater is the world stage. He has also insinuated that the fires were caused by DEWs without actually saying they were. He does a lot of this, insinuating things that he doesn't actually say. He is planted to give you a story. All of these people are. This is a similar tactic that was used in 2020 when that event happened. Suddenly, several regular people online started claiming that they had the illness, stating all of their symptoms while clearly not showing any symptoms. And they displayed some Freemasonic symbolism to show those with eyes to see that they were in on it. There were also a ton of alleged doctors who suddenly came forward opposing the narrative with wild claims of what caused the event, all of which were fake. It happened again during the Canadian trucker convoy. All these truckers and lawyers suddenly popped up out of nowhere, reporting on the story from the ground to ensure you got the message they wanted to convey about how they were treated in Ottawa. These people are desperately trying to wake up the masses, and most people are not listening. Instead, they're gobbling up the deceptions as if they are real. The main focus of the story has been that the government used directed energy weapons or lasers to burn these areas, and then there was suddenly a plethora of YouTubers saying this. Even the mainstream has jumped on the bandwagon, albeit they are squashing the rumor. But the fact that they are talking about it puts it in the general consciousness of the public. How many people knew about directed energy weapons in 2017, or even last year? Directed energy weapons, as put out by the controlled opposition, are lasers from satellites, planes, or drones in the sky. But the clue is in the name itself, DEW. Dew rises from the ground and forms as condensation when it collides with the atmosphere. This is telling us that DEWs are coming from the ground, not the sky. It's a naturally occurring energy that is rising from the earth. DEW backwards is WED, which is the process we must go through in order to exit, the alchemical wedding. The first stage of consciousness is rising from earth to water to meet Jesus in the air. The final stage is fire. The energy rising from the ground is Earth's manifestation of the Kundalini energy rising from the bowels of the earth, the plasma force rising, the fire within. This is what is causing the fires, reaching to the sky to eventually connect to the plane above like lightning. The finger of God touches the finger of Adam. And it's possible that the government is able to harness it and direct it where they want it to go. But it's also possible that all of this was divinely orchestrated. So what about the blue things that didn't burn? Well, this is a load of nonsense that was put forward by controlled opposition. However, the fact that it arose in the general awareness as a viral topic is what we need to pay attention to. As I said in the Tiffany Gomez Decode, I think the blue things that didn't burn is a reference to the ones who rise into Christ consciousness. As it says in the Bible, Elijah 43:2, "When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee." By connecting with your pineal gland, Mercury, the blue throat chakra, the higher consciousness, you don't burn. And this is dying before you die. There are a few news clips I'd like to decode.
Warning, the number of lives lost in what's now the nation's deadliest fire is likely to rise. Families holding on to hope of finding lost loved ones. Ace Yabis says he's looking for 9 of his family members.
9 is consciousness.
We've been to a lot of hotels inside Lahaina, but none of them are there. So we've been to police station, we called Red Cross, anywhere that we can find them, but nothing.
For someone who has lost 9 family members, he doesn't seem at all worried about it, despite what he's saying about searching for them.
Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac has called the island home for decades. The popular restaurant he owned burned down in the fire.
Many of the staff have nowhere to live. We're taking care as much as we can to focus on that complete and utter destruction of the whole township, and a massive blow to the Hawaiian culture of this island.
One of the recurring codes I've been receiving regarding the Maui fires as a synchronicity has been Fleetwood, as in Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood's was a restaurant that was allegedly destroyed in the fire, and I say allegedly because, looking at the photos of Fleetwood's after the fire, the frame of the restaurant is intact, but everything within it was destroyed to dust. There's nothing on the walls, no decor, no framed artwork, no glasses from the bar, no tables, chairs, bar stools, no furniture. It's as if the restaurant was stripped bare before the fire even happened. As a result of my curiosity regarding this synchronicity, I found an Instagram post by Stevie Nicks regarding the fire. In it, she said Lahaina is not gone, it's just away. Then she mentions this shop on Front Street where she bought her opal jewelry. Opal was something that I decoded in my triangle videos, which led to Jerusalem or the gyrosol, the sunflower or the turning sun within, which is the portal home. Then she said, I hope she got out, which is a reference to Tiffany, the divine feminine.
The island, home to one of the world's most comprehensive siren systems, most often used to warn of possible tsunamis, the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency confirms none were activated.
No alarm, no warning. This happens without warning, so be prepared.
And now a class action lawsuit has been filed against Hawaiian Electric, alleging the company failed to de-energize its power lines in the lead up to the fire.
And yet, according to the other report, they said the power company did de-energize its power lines earlier that day.
Now, so far, officials confirm there are at least 36 people dead, and the toll continues to rise there.
36 people dead, 3 sixes, the lower carnal mind. Lahaina means merciless or cruel sun, which is the lower carnal mind.
Nearly 300 structures destroyed, including Amanda Cassidy's home and both of her places of work.
Most of Lahaina is gone.
Lahaina is the old world ruled by the sun. It's gone, and the new world takes its place, which is why people had to leave to jump into the water. Amanda Cassidy, her name doesn't really reveal very much, but she is sitting on the floor next to a bed with the XX pattern, and behind her are 2 doors. The doors are portals or the pillars.
Thousands evacuating, like Claire Kent.
There's guys riding around on bicycles and mopeds, just screaming down the streets like, you gotta go. You were dodging branches.
Claire Kent. She sits on the floor, also in front of a door, and just like the photo of Tiffany Gomez, she's mirrored in glass, which represents the illusion or seeing double, as in twin. Her image is very similar to the image of Amanda Cassidy. She was also talking about bicycles, as they have two wheels, the two worlds, the dual cycle of the 8 involved in the reincarnation loop.
And just things flying through the air.
There are reports of more than a dozen people jumping into the ocean at Lahaina Harbor to escape the flames. The historic town that was the original capital of the Hawaiian kingdom.
Hawaii means place of the gods, but it was also called Sandwich by Captain Cook. The place of the gods in our realm is Mount Olympus, which is sandwiched between the two realms.
And home to 12,000 people now destroyed. Aerials show the widespread damage, cherished landmarks incinerated. Families separated. Steve Scott says he's still searching for his wife.
I think she's safe, but I haven't found her yet.
Steve Scott was searching for his wife, the man seeking the divine feminine. SS is what a ship is called. And SS is also the two snakes rising up the spine or the staff of the caduceus, the Ida and Pingala. He said he doesn't know where she is, but he knows that she's safe. A safe is a chest for keeping valuables, just as the heart is protected in the chest.
Some of the stories that we are starting to hear sound actually unbelievable.
She said it sounds unbelievable because it's not real. These two men claim to have run into the ocean because the fire was too intense. One man is white, the other is black, representing the black and white duality.
And I'm with two gentlemen where their evacuation, these two gentlemen lived on Prison Street.
They lived on Prison Street in the middle of Lahaina. Their story is about escaping from prison, the mind prison of the cruel sun, the ego mind. In the past week, there have been 2 stories of 2 men in 2 entirely different countries, both escaping from prison. This is not by any coincidence. This is tied in to this story as well. They stand outside an athletic center named Shine, another reference to the light within, or shining one.
Right in the middle of Lahaina, and they were 2 that actually jumped into the water to get out and were rescued by the Coast Guard.
Couldn't really see.
Notice this man is wearing sunglasses that reflect the sun. This is to indicate that he is a shining one because he's crowned. This is his halo. These 2 men were saved from the water. This means that they made it out. They are on the other side, just like Jonathan Herzog.
Anything too, sometimes it was just blacked out by the smoke, but you could still see the flames.
The one man wears a green shirt, heart chakra, with a turtle necklace. This kind of links back to the green hoodie. A turtle will stick his head inside his hood, and it's green hoodie. Turtle is the tortoise or the Taurus field.
And that was about 5:30, sometime around there. And that was about it. I looked up and down the street, and he did too. And I mean, you couldn't see, and it was just so hot. So we jumped on his scooter. We went over to the wharf, got behind it, thinking, okay, we can be here. We were there, about half hour or so before we had to jump in the water.
They are surrounded by water, and their story is about jumping in the water. The water represents the cerebrospinal fluid, the living water within the spine that helps you rise. They jumped into the water to get out and were rescued by the Coast Guard. Coast means rib or side of a body of land, similar to the meaning of pod or cowl, hood, or the removable cover of a plane. Guard just means watcher, just like Zadar, Croatia, watcher, protector.
We couldn't stay there any longer. It was just too hot. And so I called the police and they told us to jump in the water. It felt like we were in hell. It really was. It was just indescribable.
And then he tells the tale of running into a man standing against the museum across from the library, having a cigarette, refusing to leave.
Out of a movie. And it does seem like a Hollywood movie. It doesn't seem real.
The interviewer refers to these stories as being out of a Hollywood movie, another reference to illusion and unreal. Because it is. We are in a movie.
I own nothing. I have the clothes on my back and my car.
She says, I own nothing, and we all know where that came from.
And that is it.
Fina Davis gathered her family of 8 and fled to a family home in Kahana on Tuesday.
Her name is Fina Davis. which links back to Tiffany but also has many more fascinating connections. Its root stems from ba, or to shine. When we rise, we become a shining one. Phosphorus, or Lucifer, the light bearer, because the light comes from within, the cerebrospinal fluid. Your whole body will fill with light. Phenol, or Phene, is pertaining to or derived from benzene, which is a chemical used to make plastics or rubber. Gomaz, in some instances, also meant rubber. Phena is linked to epiphany, Tiffany, fame, fate, apophasis, prophet, phone, fable, fairy tale, which links to so many other points I've mentioned in this story already. Phenology is the study of the influence of climate on recurring annual phenomena, such as climate change. CC 33, to bring to light, to show. This entire event is about bringing to light what is really going on so that people wake up to the truth. This goes back to what the Cole Show was saying in his coded message, that he wanted to shine a light on this situation. Phena also means foam, froth, spume, and Venus was born from the foam. Venus is the divine feminine within. Phena is also phantom, the illusion, unreality, apparition, ghost, not real. This links back to the story of the apparition we see before we exit. And we are to not look back, or else we return to the illusion.
They self-evacuated.
We didn't get the evacuation alarms until 8 p.m. The fire started around 3:30.
The fire started at 3:30 or 33 when the Kundalini energy reached the top of the spine.
Some people are emotional, but others are just they're confused. A lot of people don't know what to do. They needed more direction, people to help them navigate the situation.
A lot of people don't know what to do, she said. They needed direction to help them navigate the situation. This is code for the masses will need help or direction when they wake up.
A lot of my friends can't leave because they don't have gas.
Fuel on the fire, the Christos oil. If there's no oil in the oil lamp, Olympus, they cannot leave. They must return or reincarnate. The fuel within is also called gas or gasoline.
They're in Kanapali, which is, feels a little safer since the fire department is confident that they're going to be able to hold the fire back to that point.
They're in Kanapali, which means the divided hills, so they're between the two hills, the two hemispheres of the brain. They're in the gap, mind the gap. They're still waiting to make the Kundalini connection. The woman on the plane, Tiffany Gomaz, resurfaced August 7th, the day the fire started in the heart of Maui. She is a personification of the divine feminine, the bird in the cage, which is why it started in the bird sanctuary in Kula. The next day, at 3:30 p.m., the fire rose to the top of the 33 vertebrae of the spine to the head in Lahaina. The 8th of August is also known as the 88 Lion's Gate, which is the moment in the head when the Kundalini energy rises to the top of the spine where it joins the Ida and Pingala, and, if you have prepared, the Kundalini connection is made. In this case, just as in the story of the two planes, the connection was not made because they had no power, or they are without gas, meaning there was no Christos oil in the lamp and no charge to make the connection. They were stuck in the gap and cannot leave. They need our help to guide them once they awaken because they are It's understandable if you do not see that these stories are connected. But everything is connected, and the world stage out there is a story reflecting back to you where we are in our collective consciousness. Right now, we are at the stage of Barbenheimer. If you want to cling to the physical story as real, or cling to the details, or get angry over a suspected land grab or arson, or celebrities being evil, or disappearing kids, or trapped bodies in cars, then perhaps you're not meant to see beyond that. I'm showing you that this is a story about you. It's a gift from God to wake you up. Of all the fires happening around the world right now, why the overemphasis on Maui? Why is it so important that we know all the details about Maui? First of all, the shape of the island ought to tell you something about the true nature of this reality. How on earth is it possible that this island is a perfect presentation of a man's torso and head? And how is it possible that these fires just happen to break out in the heart and the head and nowhere else? It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It doesn't matter how it started or who started it. All of it is just a story designed to awaken the people who are meant to see. The reason there's a fire in Maui is because the whole story is about raising the fire within. Prometheus stole the fire from the gods, the divine spark, and gave it to man. But you are the one who has to raise it within you to become autonomous, to become like God. It is said in the Bible that those who do not experience death, such as the story of Elijah, who was taken to heaven while still alive. As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elijah saw this and cried out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." And Elijah saw him no more. The fire represents the atomic explosion in the head that comes from the Kundalini connection. Fire is also the final stage of consciousness, baptism by fire. The Kundalini connection is the electrical energy that rose from the heart to the head, sparking the connection between the pineal and pituitary glands at the 88 Lion's Gate, which triggers the bolt of lightning from heaven above. The finger of God touches the finger of Adam, or man. This is the lightning striking the clock tower in Back to the Future. It stops time and puts you in the present because everything is now. You are in the central vortex or taken up by a whirlwind. We are supposed to rise into Christ consciousness, or heaven, while we are still alive. When we do so, we realize what this place truly is: a show, a play. It's not real. You are separated from it within, and you are in heaven while you are on earth. Because the entire reason for us being here is so that we remember who we really are, to rise and shine. If you like this video, please show your support for my channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment, contribute. Thanks for listening. Hope you're having a great day. Bye for now.